Good morning, friends. It's good to be here this morning. Thanks for joining us here at Journey Home Meditation for the morning sit. It is a lovely spring morning, and I'm looking forward to a little bit of contemplation, some poetry, some shared breathing and meditation. And I am happy to be here today. I do hope the best for you as well, that you are happy to be you this morning. And I don't think it's any measure of spiritual bypassing to be able to experience the fruit of all of the work that we do in the practice here to find wholeness. And that's really what healing is. The healing is the becoming whole again. And I kind of think of this practice as a misery school. I've talked about this a little bit in the past, and it's something that I think is prudent that we actually work on and learn how to be miserable. I think this is part of our issue, is that we've only really learned how to be accepted and find situations acceptable when we are full of glee, or there's this common notion that to express dissatisfaction or express a need is equivalent to the expression of lack of gratitude. And I don't think that that has to be so. In fact, I think that that comes from a place of fear of rejection and abandonment, and fear of failure, and insecurity. I think that, as a parent, I've learned that I am full of insecurities. And of course, there's insecurities that I'm aware of. There's the insecurities about the way I look, or the insecurities about the income that I have, or the insecurities about the work that I do externally in the world. I mean, there's insecurities like this, right? But when I started being responsible for holding space to create and shape lives, man, I discovered truckloads of insecurities, places where I did not feel okay on my own 2 feet. And I've been learning, and part of this is a friend of mine, Roger McKeever. He's a poet and a yoga instructor, and we met through, I think it was like an online Buddhist meditation group, possibly. We were doing some Dharma studies, I think, and surrounding poetry, and we were discussing poetry, and I found an interest in this person. I wanted to get to know him better. And so I follow his writings on Substack, and which I would love to share with you the name of his Substack. Let's see if I can find it again, because it just comes up on my feed. So I don't know how to search. Calling the Birds Home is the name of his Substack feed. So you can find Roger McKeever's work over at Calling the Birds Home. And recently, Roger shared, recounted a story of being at a David Whyte reading. David Whyte's a poet. We actually have worked on some of his work here, I believe, in the past. Irish poet, and Roger was sharing that David Whyte was discussing. Somebody in the audience had asked a question about not feeling like you're not enough, and Roger talks about David's response and how effective that was in Roger's life, and reading that really affected me, because David Whyte's response to this person talking about not being enough was not the standard platitudes of comforting responses that we're used to, right? We're used to, when somebody expresses any level of suffering, our go-to is to take away that suffering, to discount the feelings that are negative or difficult that the person is expressing, and to reassure them that their human suit is on straight and that they are doing just fine. But this person asked if what to do if they feel like they're not enough, and David Whyte's response was, "What if you're not enough? What if you're not?" And Roger describes it being a bit of a shock through the polite society of the crowd. But he goes on to explain that maybe we are not meant to be everything as an individual. Maybe this is why we have culture and society and family and friends and even strangers in our communities. We have these networks that we have created over hundreds of millennia, right? Thousands upon thousands of years. Humans have co-created, for better or for worse, these functional ways of being. And what if we're doing that because we are not meant to carry all of the burden on our own? You know, this concept of survival that so many of us live within because of uh, experiences of trauma or experiences of poverty or experiences of violence, whatever it may be that has trained us to be in survival mode. We oftentimes view survival as a solo pursuit. And the fact that we have survived the things that we have survived to get to this place is somehow evidence in our minds that this is how we do it. Well, I did this on my own. You know, you hear this often, especially when people are talking about homelessness in this country and unhoused people. Well, I struggled and I pulled myself out. I got a job and I got my own apartment and nobody helped me, so they can do it too. It's the reinforcing of this notion of doing it alone. And even this practice, the practice of mindfulness, of meditation, these Buddhistic practices, we oftentimes think that a monk is this solo hermit living on a mountaintop in a cave. But that's not what this is. That's not what's happening, and that wouldn't even really be possible. Uh, Monastics understand clearly that they live the way they live because of the community. They understand that their ability to pursue this sort of career of uh, inspecting our processes, this career of going deeper into compassion and finding the root of suffering, is supported fully by a community of people. That their own meditation practice, in fact, is uh, standing on the shoulders of the community. And so when Roger wrote about this, I read this, and it really has had a profound place in my thoughts since I read it, since the day it was written. What if you're not enough by design, on purpose? What if we are meant to lean on one another? What if we are meant to feed one another? What if we are meant, for the sake of wholeness and our own healing, what if we are meant to struggle in the ways that we struggle together? Uh, an interesting thing I learned over the years in recovery, see, the recovery community has this real love for uh, tiny bits of information that can be metaphors, right? Like, so you'll hear all these little snippets, very clever things that make you think about your own addiction or your own recovery process in a different way. And one of them that's stood out to me over the years has been learning that uh, as infants coming into being toddlers, right, when we move into walking, ambulating through the world, um, it's actually necessary. It's a built in function of our bodies that we fall. Learning to walk actually requires falling and picking ourselves up, right? And people will often point to that and say, see, you got to pick yourself up. But that's not actually the whole story. The story is you have to fall. You have to fall because your body needs to go through all of these different motions and learn the mechanics of balance. Your body has to learn balance. Your body has to gain the strength to be balanced, right? And this means that you have to hold on to something. You have to hold on to somebody to practice balance. And I feel like that's what this practice is for me, is learning the practice of balance requires gaining the strength in the ways that I would not gain without falling. Sometimes it's very challenging, difficult, hard, angering, uh, upsetting. Sometimes it's the things that I didn't want to do most. But it's those things where I am really grateful to be able to learn acceptance and learn um, how to accommodate even this into my life so that I can live. Accommodate these things so that I can continue to experience all of the aspects of this moment that we have. Let's take a few breaths. Let's hear the bell and gently breathing in. So today I found a poem. Padraig O'Tuma is a poet from the north of Ireland, Northern Ireland, who has a podcast called Poetry Unbound. It's a phenomenal podcast. Beyond just discussing the poems, Padraig is a spiritual teacher, a guide of sorts, a masterful weaver of social and interpersonal dynamics into the expressions of poetry and art. And Padraig's personal experiences are of being a part of a community who is working peace in North Ireland after decades upon decades of violence and division and separation. And so Padraig is responsible for bringing those gifts and those offerings regularly on his podcast. And he also publishes his own poetry and books. And this is a poem by Padraig O'Tuma from his book, Sorry for Your Troubles. And the title of the book even speaks to the violence that Padraig grew up entrenched in North Ireland. The conflict of colonization and dominance in North Ireland is referred to as the Troubles often. And so this book really tackles a lot of his processes as an Irishman in North Ireland. And this poem is called The Facts of Life. That you were born and you will die. That you will sometimes love enough and sometimes not. That you will lie, if only to yourself. That you will get tired. That you will learn most from the situations you did not choose. That there will be some things that move you more than you can say. That you will live. That you must be loved. That you will avoid questions most urgently in need of your attention, that you began as the fusion of a sperm and an egg of two people who once were strangers and may well still be. That life isn't fair, that life is sometimes good, and sometimes even better than good. That life is often not so good. That life is real, and if you can survive it well, survive it well, with love and art and meaning given where meaning's scarce. That you will learn to live with regret, that you will learn to live with respect. That the structures that constrict you may not be permanently constricting. That you will probably be okay. That you must accept change before you die, but you will die anyway. So you might as well live, and you might as well love. You might as well love. You might as well love. That's Padraig O'Tuma from Sorry for Your Troubles. So thanks for being here today. You can reach out, respond on Substack. This is going to be the last month for these sits to be broadcast live onto Facebook as I'm leaving the platform entirely. Facebook, Instagram, Messenger. I'm leaving Meta behind entirely and slowing down my life and moving over to Substack completely, and YouTube as well. So, yeah, I appreciate you. Take those breaths together and be calm today. Howdy-om.